going to tell you today about how social anxiety caused me to have a mental breakdown my senior year of college. I talked before about my nightmarish experience freshman year, how I was forced to wrestle a college athlete on the dorm room floor. My sophomore and junior year were actually much better. I became friends with two guys on my floor, one of which was my roommate, and another one had been his roommate the year prior. We weren't really into drinking or anything, just kind of gaming, more nerdy type of stuff. Now, the problem is they were both a year ahead of me, so they graduated in 2021 before what would be my senior year in the fall. Now, I was living on a floor with juniors, and this was a group of people who already knew each other well. So I didn't really have any place. I didn't exactly fit in with them. They were very much frat boys as well. I went about going to my classes. I'm a political science major, and everything was essentially normal. I didn't have any friends, but I was going home on the weekends, so I was really just at school to go to my classes, just trying to get it done for. I'm getting close to finishing at this time. But you see, I had a building fear of giving presentations. This had not been a problem in middle school, high school, or most of college. Maybe it had started to be a little bit, but it was still manageable. So I showed up to an event where I was speaking in front of the class. I had rehearsed it quite a lot, and I didn't think there would be any issue. Someone was going before me, and when my time was coming to present, I became very nervous with crazy levels of heart palpitations, and I decided to run out of the classroom to go to the bathroom, which is all I thought I was going to do. But upon going to the bathroom, I couldn't regain my composure, so I actually ran out of the building. And I'm thinking I don't really have a game plan at all, and part of me is saying, what the fuck, you have to go back into the class. The other part of me is saying, get as far away as possible. Unfortunately, I listened to the latter part of my brain, and I went to the most isolated part of campus I could think of. You go to this forest, and it comes to a little hill which leads you to this rock area, and it's somewhere kids go to smoke pot. It's graffitied, it's kind of like Sodom and Gomorrah type of situation going on there. And I was probably harshing the mellow of the pot smokers because I'm pacing around back and forth. Maybe they thought I was just having a really bad trip. And this is a small campus, so my intention essentially is just to hide. I'm not really thinking much about what's happening in the classroom because I would prefer not to until I get a text from my teacher, which is not something I even knew was possible. And of course she wants to know where I am, and I ended up faking a medical emergency, which is obviously not a very honorable thing to do. I was looking for essentially any way out. Suffice to say, I did not return to that class the rest of the semester. I completed all of the assignments still, and just figured I'd take the L on my participation grade. And there was another teacher in the same department, and he was essentially a madman. I actually had him as my advisor. First time I met him, he told me about how poli-sci girls are kinky, which is not a way I had ever heard a teacher speak as a sophomore. He had tenure, so he didn't exactly have to teach per se. I finally got him as my teacher senior year, and I witnessed what his class was like. It's essentially him just calling on you randomly to ask you inappropriate, strange questions. He called me, his nickname was Little Chat Room Surfer, we'll say. I guess this was because he perceived me to be innocent. I talked in a high-pitched voice just because I was very afraid. And I believe a question he asked me, just as an example, was about if I had ever had a thermometer stuck in my ass. There was one really strange day where he was talking about how he was going to make this girl in the class get on her knees for him, which made everyone very uncomfortable, and he knew exactly what he was saying, and so did everybody else, even though he was not overt enough about it to cause an issue with the school administration, obviously. As you can imagine, for me, being socially anxious, waking up on days when I knew I had this class, it was also early in the morning, was very difficult. Now, I did this for most of the semester, and then late in the semester, once this incident had happened where I ran out of the class, that class happened to be taught in the same building. I was afraid of running into that teacher, and in combination with being afraid of this professor, I stopped going to that class as well. So this was half of my classes that I could no longer go to. I believe I had four. I spent large chunks of my day in the dorm room where absolute chaos was happening. There was 24/7 partying essentially. There was a basketball hoop that was being dunked on, loud music, screaming, and the like. The boys on the floor did not like me because I was a nerd who didn't hang out with them. One time, the sort of chief of the tribe was throwing his ball around. He threw his ball in my direction. I'm trying to walk to class. I didn't pick it up for him. He goes,
Oh, that's okay. Just don't pick it up.
and I ignored this and it just ran right out. Somehow I managed to still pass all my classes ultimately, but I did not graduate from that school. I received a transfer the following semester because I was essentially living in hell. I was afraid of running into pretty much anyone in the political science department because they knew me as the kid who had run out. I assumed because they were talking to each other and whatnot. And I didn't have any friends. I didn't drink. So, I mean, I just had no reason to still be at this school. I ended up going to online school and just staying home. But yeah, I don't know why I felt the need to tell this story today, except for a bit of a therapy session. If you have social anxiety also, maybe you can relate. You have some stories similar to this. This was definitely a low point that I can remember. Probably the lowest point. And yeah, I think this might be a Storytime channel now. I'm not really sure what else to make, but I guess that's all. Chatroom Surfer logging out.